Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA. This is another episode of the Club Roundup, the football edition, and this is episode number 3. And in this video, we're just going to talk about the Dublin Club Football Championship. And my God, there were some headlines out of the Dublin Club Championship this weekend. Luke, I'm going to give you props from the start. You call this Lucan Sarsfields. They've knocked out Ballymun Kickhams, last year's champions, heavily fancied to win the title again. Brendan Gallagher kicks a last-minute free as Lucan Sarsfields complete and has an absolutely fantastic victory for a side which, they are on the rise. Loads of young talent in the team, the likes of Alan Murphy and Mark Lavin. But to overcome a Ballymun Kickham side who had Dean Rock back, they had James McCarthy in there, they had Paddy Small, and they had John Small at centre-back. Fantastic achievement by Lucan, and congratulations.
Yeah, look, it was kind of coming into this one, I suppose, I did tip kind of Lucan to really put it up some. I did tip them to win it, but I don't think I was fully confident in it because just of the sheer kind of quality that's in Ballymun. I suppose kind of the bit that was steering me towards kind of predicting Lucan was just kind of the form of Ballymun, I suppose, going throughout the whole kind of championship. But they'd really kind of struggled through all the games. They'd drawn a few and they'd kind of scraped past into this stage. And ultimately, I suppose, after kind of a lot of drama in the end, and pretty much they pulled it back kind of 2-level at with about 30 seconds to go, and ultimately they were only beaten by the last kick of the game. So Lucan really had to earn it, I suppose, in the end. Pretty much an unbelievable performance by Brendan Gallagher, I suppose, pretty much dragged him over the line, and looks a huge scalp for Lucan, and they're a club absolutely going in the right direction.
100%, and the key score came in the 27th minute, a goal from Kieran Smith. That was ultimately the key, the difference between the two sides. As you mentioned, Ballymun Kickhams, they came roaring back into the game. Dean Rock's free taking at the end was fantastic. He held his nerve every time, and he just kept tapping over the frees to bring Ballymun closer and closer and eventually level. But then Brendan Gallagher held his nerve fantastically, giving Lucan a 1-point victory. So obviously Lucan into the next round. And now in the semi-final, they're going to play against St. Jude's, who marched on from the quarterfinals, beating Thomas Davis by 3 goals and 14 points to 15 points. They were 1-8 to 9 points up at half-time. Niall Coakley got the goal from a penalty after 14 minutes. Kevin McMenamin was fantastic throughout. Tom Lahiff and Shay Ryan were also fantastic. They got the other 2 goals for Jude's. And which one out of these two now would you kind of fancy to take that semi-final tie?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one because if you look at kind of Jude's overall, I think without kind of having the complete abundance of Dublin kind of county players, it's a very, very solid team that are very streetwise. They've been in around kind of Dublin for the last couple of years, competing every kind of regularly. They've been county finalists, and they've just been kind of a team that's been so difficult to beat. They have a great system and stuff as well, very hard to break down. I know they're probably a little bit lucky with the penalty decision, I think, kind of at the weekend that Coakley scored, but and then they were pushed very, very hard by a good Thomas Davis side as well. But ultimately the two goals at the end from Lahiff and Ryan, that they pulled away, I suppose, in the end. But I think, I do think that they're kind of be a little bit too streetwise for Lucan. Although Lucan are kind of they've looked fantastic so far. And they probably still have more to get from the likes of Darren Gavin and Mark Lavin as well. Although they were very good, they probably weren't as dominant as they can be as well in the last game against Ballymun. But I do think that Jude's are just going to have a little bit too much know-how for them. And I expect I would expect Jude's to get through to the final.
Yeah, me too. And then on the other side of the fence, Ballyboden St, they beat Castleknock rather comfortably. They won by 2 goals and 17 points to 1 goal and 11. And in the other quarterfinal, then the final one, it's 1-1 between me and you now. And you tipped Nafina to win this game. I tipped Kilmacud Crokes to win it. Kilmacud Crokes got the job done by a goal and 11 points to Nafina's 12 points. Darren Mullen with the crucial score there. What did you make of these 2 games?
Yeah, look, well, I think that Bowden kind of really showed their credentials. I think in the first game, that in a game they were expected to come out against Castleknock, but Castleknock have always been kind of a tough enough team, and you always know what challenge you're going to get from them, I suppose, with some really good club players. Obviously Kilkenny, but then Graham Hannigan as well, and Shane Boland. They're very, very solid club players. ultimately just Ballyboden just blew them away, I suppose, in the end. And particularly the Basquels and Simon Lambert and stuff having huge games as well. So, yeah, look, I think they've really kind of summed up their kind of credentials this year, and probably the nature of that performance, I'd say, has probably elevated them to my favourites at this stage, I'd say, as well. But then going back, I suppose, to the other game, probably the most appetising game on paper, I suppose, the weekend was that Nafina Crokes game. Would have been a repeated Division 1 final from this year, where Nafina came out on top. And I suppose that was probably why it was swaying me towards going with Nafina. But ultimately, I suppose it was kind of same old failings for Nafina again, in a game probably that they had enough ball and enough chances to probably win. They did have a fisted shot kind of cleared off the line in the last kick of the game, but ultimately after kind of losing Merchant and stuff as well, losing McHugh and stuff, they never really pushed on, I suppose. I know there are two huge losses they've had kind of in the game, but at the time, kind of, there was a feeling the Crokes kind of did have them at arm's length, and the nature of the result wasn't fully really in doubt, I suppose. But yeah, look, Crokes were kind of savvy enough, I suppose, to keep them out. They've some like really, really good defensive players. You look at kind of Cillian O'Shea, the two McGowans, Rory O'Carroll as well. So look, they're obviously stacked in that position. And ultimately, like I suppose, with the nature score, I won 11 to 12 points. It was a tight kind of dogged kind of game on a Parnell Park pitch that was kind of really cut up after all the previous games on it. So yeah, look, for Crokes, they came through it, but I would probably be leaning towards Ballyboden based off the two performances of the weekend. I think they were the more impressive of the two sides ahead of that semi-final.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there, 100%. Do you tip Bowden to go the whole way then?
Yeah, I think right now they'd probably be the team that I am looking at kind of as probably my favourites kind of I'd say at this stage of the campaign. Obviously, look, it's going into that kind of fixture between themselves and Kilmacud is like they're kind of traditional rivals. They've kind of always at this level every single year. So them playing each other is going to be a really, really interesting fixture. And then, yeah, look, in the other semi-final, I suppose we've got two teams that they're not kind of regular winners of the championship whatsoever. So it's exciting to see one of them kind of get into a final again and stuff as well. And look, on any given day, they can absolutely give kind of the winner of the other semi-finalists a run, even though that they will be kind of they will be unfavoured coming into it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So moving away from the quarterfinals then to the relegation playoffs, there was a shocking headline there. The Dublin Club Championship final in 2014 was contested by St Vincent's and St Oliver Plunketts, and on the weekend there, both of them were relegated to the Senior B Championship. St Vincent's were beaten by my club, Whitehall Colmcille, 1 goal and 12 points to 13 points. Have to say, I'm hugely proud of the lads. They pulled out a fantastic performance to get the job done by 2 points. I'm just really, really proud of the lads. What a performance from them. And then in the other relegation playoff, Clontarf won by 2 goals and 24 points to St Oliver Plunkett's 2 goals and 12 points. What did you make of these results? I have to say, they certainly grabbed the headlines anyway.
Yeah, look, particularly the Vincent's one. I think looking from a situation where they dominated kind of Dublin club football so much in the last kind of 10 years in that era with the Connolly team, and you look at Shane Carty, all these kind of players that were on that team, Mossy Quinn and stuff, that they were just so hard to beat in Dublin and stuff. And to see that they've kind of gone from that kind of dominance into relegation to Senior B, I think like there's no doubt it's kind of why it's getting so much attention like nationwide. But I think it's when you look at the kind of the panel that it's kind of there's no surprise. I think that like they obviously are kind of not the same power that they are. I think the big kind of factor, like obviously Dermot Connolly's no longer involved kind of with that senior team. He was playing intermediate for a while, and it's like word is that he's not even playing intermediate anymore. So look, they've kind of lost some of those kind of key players, I think, from that team. Obviously Shane Carty's not around anymore. So they're definitely a team in transition. And the panels that they've been putting out in recent games, like, have been very young, kind of experimental, and there's a lot of experience needed. So perhaps kind of for Vincent's rebuilding, Senior B might be the best place for those young players to get more experience. Like, it's still going to be a really high standard, playing at a very, very good level, but it will give kind of young fellas a chance kind of to get more game time and get them kind of ready to go back up to that Senior A standard, because I can't imagine that Vincent's will be stuck down there for too long.
Yeah, and to tag on to what you're saying there, so in the last 2 years, not only have they lost Dermot Connolly and then Shane Carty this year, they've also lost Enda, who was a fantastic forward for them up front over the last 2 years. And then they've also lost Michael Savage, who was like the backup Dublin goalkeeper for years. Josh O'Neill's a young goalkeeper in there. He's very, very talented. He was the Dublin under-20 goalkeeper last year. He has a bright future ahead of him, but Savage was very, very established and was such a safe pair of hands in there for St. Vincent's. They've got a young team coming. I mean, you look at their 2017 Dublin Club Championship victory, which was their last. They were an old team. They had the likes of Ger Brennan still in that team, Eamon Fennell. They had a team that a lot of them were on the wrong side of 30. So that was kind of a last stand Dublin Club Championship win for a lot of that team. They were going to have to go into a transition phase at some point. And this is that point for Vincent's. They have to transition now. They've got a lot of very talented young players coming through. A lot of players that were on that Dublin under-20 squad, the likes of Mark Lestrange and Josh O'Neill that I've mentioned. They won't be happy with this achievement. Obviously, they're the most successful club in Dublin history. So they won't be happy with this. As for Whitehall, it's a massive achievement for them to stay up in Senior A Championship for another season. Whitehall have a very, very young team there. Like, we've got a lot of lads that have only fresh out of the minor setup. We've got some very, very talented lads that like the League Annan and Sean Fawn coming through. So for us to stay at Senior A Championship is a massive boost for our club. And then on the other side for Clontarf as well, they're the same. They've got a lot of young lads coming through, the likes of Kieran McKeown. So for Clontarf to stay at this level as well, massive boost to that club. And they did it very, very convincingly. They absolutely hammered Plunkett by 12 points, 224 to 212, as I've mentioned. So they really have made a statement that they belong at Senior A Championship level. As for Plunkett, it's kind of a disappointing way to bow out like.
Yeah, look, I think for them kind of as well, I think the Brogans kind of are reaching the end, I think, nearly of their club days as well and stuff. Look, after some kind of fantastic days, maybe they didn't win what they should have when they had the Brogans at the peak of their powers. Like, they probably should have been winning kind of county championships with them, but they were always thereabouts, although never getting over the line. But look, I think that kind of team, it's kind of similar to Vincent's. It's kind of reached the end of the line, and look, they're in transition too. So look, to see that kind of, it wasn't a huge surprise. I don't think to see that kind of Clontarf would beat them kind of comfortably. Clontarf have a nice kind of young team coming through as well, with a lot of talent on it as well. So I wasn't fully surprised with that score, but just kind of, again, to kind of shout out to Whitehall. I think that, look, I've seen personally kind of some of their juvenile teams in the past couple of years, and the amount of talent that they've produced in the last 5 years or so coming through minor and coming through juvenile has been pretty much exceptional. So to see those kind of lads come through into the team, I think it's no surprise that they're beginning to kind of reap rewards already. And look, they've the makings of a really, really good team, and like a team that can consistently stay at senior level for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. So as well as that, your club, St. Sylvester's, they're pushing now for promotion from Senior B Championship, and the team that's standing alongside them in their way is Cuala. What do you make of this?
Yeah, look, I think it's probably the toughest draw that Sylvester could have got. Like, obviously, you look at kind of at what Cuala did to St. Anne's the weekend, beating them 4-18 to 5 points and stuff as well. Like, it's going to be an almighty challenge. Like, you look at some of the names on the Cuala team, like with Conor Callaghan, with Michael Simons, Conor Mullally, Patrick Kovic-Byrne. It's a ridiculously strong team for Senior B. They've probably been unfortunate not to get promoted the last couple of years back to Senior A, where they probably belong. So look, it's a tough draw for Sylvester's. And although they had a good win kind of against Parnell's last week, 5-8 to 9 points, I think it's going to be a huge old test for them going forward. So look, I think Cuala have shown really, really well this year. Kind of a shout out as well to our cousin as well, Jack Laird, who's starting for them in wing back all year this year. He's been playing very, very well. So I think Cuala will probably be favourites to win that semi-final, to progress to and get promoted back up to Senior A. And then kind of in the other semi-final, we're looking at Templeogue versus St. Brigid's, which is a really, really tough one to call. You look at Templeogue's forward line, they've got the two O'Garas, Lorcan O'Dell as well, and Niall Scully. It's a ridiculously strong forward line for Senior B as well. So I think it just shows kind of the standard of kind of Senior B football in Dublin is absolutely through the roof right now. Ultimately, if I was to be pushed on it, I think I'd go with Cuala Brigid's final, and probably Cuala to win.
Yeah, I think the same. I think when you look at the talent that Cuala have, it's absolutely bizarre that they're not in Senior A Championship already. In my opinion, they have Dublin's best defender in Michael Fitzsimons, like their best natural defender, and they've Dublin's best forward in Conor O'Callaghan, and then one of our brightest prospects in midfield in Patrick Kovic-Byrne. So the fact that they're not even in Senior A Championship is bizarre. And yeah, I tip them to get back up there where they belong, in my opinion. And yeah, shout out to Jack he's doing great stuff there with Cuala. So yeah, guys, that is our full recap of the Dublin Club Football Championship that happened over the weekend. Some massive results, massive headlines. And yeah, the championship next season will look very, very different for Dublin, regardless of what happens from here on out. So guys, that is the episode. We hope you enjoyed. And until next time, take care.